What are some ways that you are using technology at Apex?
Well, obviously the standard emails and text messages that I think everybody uses those, so that's not anything fancy. But what we have bought into is a project management software called Procore, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's a it's more than what Builder Trend does. I'm sure you know what Builder Trend is and what Building Connected does, but it's on a higher level. So by that, I mean that it is a portal-based program that we can upload all of our contracts with the owners. We can upload all of our contracts with subcontractors, scopes of worksheets, etc., and put those in different folders within the Procore. Also within Procore, we have folders for architectural drawings, and every time the architect uploads a drawing in the Procore, it'll actually update the drawing and show us what the differences from drawing A to drawing B has been, so what the changes have been in between the two drawings. So that saves a lot of time because our plans are big and they're detailed, and if we miss one little thing, it has a cascading waterfall effect. We miss something in foundations and it could really mess us up when we're doing finishes that we might not have even caught. So that's really imperative. And then it also has a portal for meeting notes and meeting agendas, we live and die by these meeting notes and meeting agendas, because you're able to then get what all the hot topics are for the client meetings out and done, and it automatically uploads it. But the biggest thing is we get to link in the architects and the owners into the actual software. So they have an overview of the project from their laptop or iPad or whatever, so that they can click in and see daily site pictures, daily logs from our guys in the field. They can go to the drawings. They can go to the specifications. They have all this information at a fingertip in different files already created. We have the budget in there, so they can pull up the budget on a Sunday night and say, am I spending $1 on this item, or am I spending $10? It's all right in there, and they can actually just at their leisure go in there, look at it, and figure out their own problem. Whereas in the past, that would have been a blow up email on a Sunday night where somebody needs to know something right now, and it's Sunday night. I'm with my kids. I'm not looking at my phone, and I don't get to it until Monday, and they're upset because I didn't answer quick enough for them. So this software lets us have an interface with our clients without having to interface directly with them on a constant, updating basis. The other vantage point from us is that our entire staff is linked into the Procore system, so that if I'm away, which i.e. never happens, by the way, but if I'm away and my PM needs to know something, he can go into any job that's in Procore and click on it and find the information he needs without having to freak out that he's not going to get the answer fast enough, or he's waiting for myself to get back to him or something like that. It's an investment. There's no question. These systems are not cheap. I think Procore cost us upwards of $10,000 a year. So you have to be willing to spend money on it. But I think the intrinsic value of having a system in place like that makes our day-to-day activities and our experience with our clients more productive and more fruitful, and just a more positive thing for the project. A lot of times these projects are stressful all the way around. There's no question. And these types of technology is around to help us reduce the overall stress. So we try to use it and push it. We're working with architects that have not used it before, and we kind of give them the crash course, if you will, and now they love it. And they make other builders try to, hey, you should be using Procore, because you have to do, you could do this so easily, where just an RFI, for instance, you can put an RFI in Procore and everybody on the project team gets it, as opposed to typing an RFI and then writing an email and saying, okay, I have to copy the engineer, the architect, the owner, this one. Oh, did I miss anybody? And sometimes, you may have missed one person that might have been the most important person for that RFI. Procore takes it to the whole project team. So it's great for that perspective. And we're new at it. We've only been using it for about 6 months now, but we see the advantages of using that software. And that's what software's around for.
Yeah, in your opinion, who would be a good fit for Procore?
I would say any company that has multiple projects going on, because it's easy to kind of manage one project. Mm-hmm. Like I've done that, and I'm sure you've done that. Like that's easy. But when you have multiple projects going on, it's a lot easier to put these systems in place because you get to split the cost over the multiple projects, so it makes that overhead a little easier to swallow. But I think it'll substantially help them become more productive with their time, because time is money, and if you're more productive with time, you're making more money, and everybody's happier at the end. Because information is being passed through everybody. So if everybody has the information, nobody can ever point and say, I didn't pick that paint color. Well, it's on the meeting notes, and the meeting notes are distributed to Procore, and Procore sends you an email saying their meeting notes are ready, and please take a look at them. So it's great. I mean, it just takes a step out of it as opposed to us having to do it the old school way of sending emails to everybody to remind them, hey, listen, meeting minutes are ready. Please read them.
Have you used Builder Trend?
I haven't.
Okay.
My former employer was very old school. Like I said, like I actually installed systems of tracking logs for myself because we didn't use any technology. So it was simple spreadsheets.
Okay. Well, I don't really want to get into it because I was just going to ask on comparison how they compare, but let's not go down that road if there's not a real experiential, knowledge of that.
No, I haven't used Builder Trend.
Procore. What else? What other kind of tech are you guys using in your company?
Bluebeam. Bluebeam works really well for analyzing the drawings and taking it so that you can mark them up and highlight things and do estimating from them. We're starting to use that more and more. We're just kind of playing with it now internally with our executive PMs. But yeah, Bluebeam is worked out pretty good so far.
So is Bluebeam something that you use on your computer or on a mobile device?
No, you can use it on your iPad. Yeah, I mean, I've done it on my laptop. That's generally where I use it from, just because we'll be sitting around the conference room table saying, hey, listen, we need to do an estimate of this, and let's just throw it on Bluebeam and see how quickly we can get it done. And then we'll actually race one of the other PMs who will do it with an old ruler or wheel or something. But it's great because it just does all the calculations right there from you. You take it and all the math is already done, as opposed to you have to write it down and transfer it and so on and so forth.
So once that spits out all that stuff, does it help you come up with the estimate itself, or is it just the raw data?
No, we just take the raw data from it. So we use it for more of doing takeoffs and things like that. And we also use it for marking up PDFs, if you will, or the Bluebeam drawings, because they take it a step further than a PDF document will. It's a lot easier to edit. So we're able to take notes from one section and put it on another section and make it a lot easier for our guys to understand a sketch, an SK drawing from the architect. We can kind of mark it up the way that they'll understand it and then get it done in the field. Because a lot of times there's a disconnect between, the architects, the engineers, and our PMs get it. But then from the PM trying to get the mason to understand what the architect's intent is, there's a disconnect there sometimes. So we have to be the magician to say, this is what we're looking for. And if we're able to do it and it spits out that drawing like done, that's a home run for us. And you're able to show people. And again, it's all about speed and quality. And we want to make sure that the right thing's getting done at our standards, basically.
Do you have any other tech?
That's kind of it for the tech. I mean, we're using drones for photography, but I think everybody's kind of using that these days. I don't think we're pushing any other limits.
Let's talk a little bit about marketing. You already mentioned word of mouth. No one would debate the power of having a happy customer tell her best friend to call Apex Projects, right?
Absolutely.
And then you talked briefly about networking. But break it down for us. What is you and Brian? What are you guys? What's your vision, and how are you marketing your company to get it to that?
For us, it is more about the relationship that we make with people. So that word of mouth from a particular client is awesome, and I mean that's what we strive for, and that's the goal. But you're not going to get every job just from a word of mouth. So what we've done is print media, which is still around. It's super expensive, but it is still somewhat relevant, especially in our market, because it's nice to see, an Apex Project ad in the local magazines. So we do a little bit of that. But Brian and I have more recently decided that, you could spend, firms up by us are spending $100,000 a year on marketing, and a lot of that is print media stuff. and it's super expensive, and it's not always that successful. Let's say it's not like you're going to turn around and look at it year over year and say, okay, so we spent $100,000 last year. How much work did that bring in? I mean, that's what we evaluate, right? And that's the value of the marketing. But it could take 3 years to get one job. But if it's one job, it's normally a multi-million-dollar job. So you have to look at it back. Was it worth it? Okay, great. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. That's something you have to weigh out. So, but we've decided to kind of push the limits a little more. We like doing, and what we're starting to do now is personalized networking events. So we'll do a private event, let's say, and we will invite a bunch of key people that we want to get in front of, whether it be interior designers or architects or whatever. We'll throw an event, like we're going to do something later on this year. We're actually going to bring people to skeet shooting. And it's something that nobody really does around here. And there's a club that one of the landscape architects that we've worked with is a member at the club. And he said, hey, listen, would you guys like to? And absolutely, let's throw an event together. So we're going to have it at a club. We're going to invite, 50 different people. And out of that 50, maybe we get 30 that confirm. And we're going to bring them skeet shooting. And it's going to be, an afternoon of, we're going to have lunch. We're going to go skeet shooting. And then maybe we're going to grab drinks afterwards. And that is an experience. So what we want to do is create an experience where people be like, yeah, I met those Apex guys, and, Chris and Brian are really down to earth. And we went to this event that they were hosting. And, they're going to remember that more than if they're just flipping through a magazine and saying, oh, yeah, great, there's an Apex ad. And, oh, they're great. And then there's another ad and another ad from all of our competition. So we're really trying to think outside the box on how to be better at networking, because at the end of the day, we have to spend a lot of money on it, but we want it to be productive money. We don't just want to, throw it in the pockets of the magazine companies, because what do you get out of it, right? Like, this is hard-earned money. It's not just like we have an open piggy bank. We're a small company and we have real bills to pay. So we want to make sure that we're being as cognizantly aware as possible as we can. And I think outside of the event networking, things like this is just a different avenue that nobody's tapped yet. So we're just trying to lead the forefront on that part of it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really cool. I mean, seriously. So, like, how many of those can you do?
It's a financial decision that we have to make, and we're just really starting to get into it. We haven't had the full birth of what that's going to cost, but yeah, some of these events can be $10,000 an event, and it's like, yeah, how many $10,000 events can you afford to do, or how many $20,000 events can you afford to do? It has to be the right event. It has to be the right crowd. We feel it will be very successful as long as we have invited the correct people. And you can't, and by that I mean is that you can't just invite 100 different architects that you kind of have to invite like-minded people, let's say, so that it's an enjoyable experience. Because let's be honest, if you go to an event and there's people that you don't share the same views with, you may or may not have a good time at that event. So we want to avoid that. Mm-hmm. We want to just have an event that everybody has a good time and they're like, wow, I hope they do that again next year. I can't wait to go. So that's what we're pushing for, and that's what we're brainstorming towards. And I think we have a good vision in events like the ones I just described, to the fact of, yeah, we don't want to be just your ordinary builder. So we have that global mentality around us saying that, yeah, what do we think outside the box? What aren't people doing? Like, how do we get the next crowd of customers? And with that saying is like, these events draw that crowd. Because let's be serious. If it's the same networking event or the same cocktail party year after year, people are going to be busy and they're like, listen, I got something else I got to do that night. Like, yeah, I'm going to miss that event and it's a bummer, but I'll catch the next one. And okay, or you just see the same people at the same events. And if you're getting work from them, that's great. But if you're not, you're just seeing the same people at the same event. So you're just kind of wasting money in that essence. Yeah. So that's why we've kind of thought outside the box. And yeah, I hope it's successful.
Yeah. So what are some of the other events you're going to that are already existing right now?
So like I said, a lot of the magazines up here will have a cocktail party, and they do them, I would say in the springtime is heavily networked in this Northeast market, because everybody's thinking about their project that they want to do and get started in the summer. So there is cocktail parties 2-3 times a week. Some people have done private chef parties at like an appliance place by us. They have like 4 different kitchen setups, and they'll have 4 celebrity chefs come in, and then they'll have, a networking event at that. So the chefs will be cooking for people, and there'll be, 80 to 100 people walking around. And those are good because hopefully the draw is the celebrity chef. But for me personally, and Brian and I, the draw is the architects that go to these things and designers that go, because that's our avenue of work. So we go after the architects and designers. For the architects and designers, they don't really get a lot of work from going to these events. So it's more of a social gathering for them to see other architects that they work with or other builders that they work with. So it's more for us to go to them. So it works out in our favor for that regard, because the long-standing question that we always have is, I have no idea how an architect gets work, because there is not one place that you go to and there's just a room full of clients and they say, oh yeah, you're the best fit for that client. You're like, I don't know how they do it. And God bless them that I don't have to do that. Yeah. At least I know where to go to get my work. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's talk about internet. You guys are active. I've seen you on Instagram and you have a nice website. So how are you using the internet to put your brand out there?
Yeah, I think the advent of joining on to Instagram has helped me huge. I mean, I never would have followed you guys. I never would have known about you guys. Jobson really got me into it, and I was just so busy that I didn't really have time. And he's like, no, listen, you should really do this. You should really try it and experience it. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand. Like, these clientele that I work for, a lot of times they'll have an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. So I can't share pictures or I can't share a story or something like that. And he's like, don't worry, just get the ones you can, but just get on it. And so I started on it, and instantly I just fell in love with the community that Instagram is. And there are so many like-minded people on this platform, which has opened up my eyes to just reaching out to Wade from WKP or Joe from Elite Customs and asking them just random questions like, hey, what would you do with this detail? This is what I'm thinking. How do you do it? And just being able to bounce that idea back and forth with people that are, 100, 200 miles away from me, but they're close friends now because we've seen each other at various meetups and the International Builders Show. So that platform in that regard has helped grow my personal it's grown my personal relevance, let's say. But the advent of using Instagram for actually getting work is like the next level for us. So I was approached by an interior designer about 6-7 months ago, and she said, hey, listen, I love what you're doing on Instagram. I love your work. Would you be interested in bidding a project? I'm like, yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's why my face is on here. Like, I'm not doing it just to look at myself. So we bid the project, and she's like, yeah, you guys got it. Like, I told the client. So we did the project. It turned out awesome. She's a great designer. We love working with her. And then towards the end, the clients were like, hey, are you on Instagram? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, oh my goodness, like, I didn't realize it. And the designer was standing next to me. She said, yeah, that's how I found Chris, was on Instagram. And now the owners are following me on Instagram, and they're like, please post our house, post the pictures. We love it. We love what you guys do. So for me personally, yeah, it was great to meet a lot of people, but it's also the advent of, hey, this is a new avenue to get actual work out of. And from that, I mean, it's like, it's very easy for someone just to scroll through my page and see the portfolio of work, as opposed to me printing a book or a pamphlet or something and cold calling and trying to get in your office to show you what we can bring to the table. Now it's like, yeah, you can Sunday morning having coffee and see what Apex is up to and what caliber work they're doing, and saying, oh yeah, Monday morning I'm going to reach out to them for that next project. That's why we do it. That's why we put the work out there. And I know Instagram is kind of changing their algorithms and all this and the other thing. For me personally, none of that will matter. We're still putting out the same project. We're still putting out the same quality of work, and just being able now to actually share what we do. Whereas before 2 years ago, nobody knew what I did. I worked on some crazy high-end houses, and they could never see it because they never come. I can't tour people through these houses.
Yeah. Well, is there any other platforms that you are active on?
Not really. I mean, we all have the Facebook pages, but like Facebook for me just doesn't have the same effect. Like, I don't use Facebook for what I use Instagram for. I don't enjoy it, so I'd much rather focus the little bit of time that I do have for this on the Instagram and focus on that avenue. And from my perspective, listen, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's working for me. We're getting work out of it. I'm getting networking between myself and us and architects and designers and things like that, where it's like, okay, yeah, just stick with that. It's working. You know, for me to explore something else, like, I just don't have the time, honestly, Martin. Like, there's so much going on with all the various projects. We have 10 projects going on of various, costs, and there's a lot. And to be we're being pulled in all the different directions, making sure everything's getting done to our standards. That we just made a decision to focus on what we're good at, and that's kind of what we do. So Instagram's where I'm at, and that's where you'll find me.